Okay, July is over and it's time to do an update on my one book July experiment. The short story is I'm still confused and I don't have as much clarity as I thought I would, but I'm going to explain my thought process in this video and talk you through what's going on in my mind. And then if we have some time, I also want to chat a little bit about the Hobonichi previews that have started for August because I'm so excited and I need a place to talk about my thoughts so far. As much as I tried to temper my excitement, we are only a few days into the month and I'm already so excited. Before we begin, I invite you to grab yourself a beverage, a snack, and something to keep you company and help you feel cozy while we hang out and chat about planners and Hobonichi. My drink of choice is a hot water in this beautiful ceramic mug that I got from a local artist in Toronto named July. And my snack of choice is yet another iteration of the amazing black licorice. Last week, I posted a video where I talked about my love for black licorice, especially the chocolate-covered black licorice. And this week, I come to you with the plain black licorice, which I think is just as delicious. So for those of you interested, this is what the packaging looks like. I'm fairly certain this brand, Darryl Lee, is available in Canada and possibly the US. I don't know if it's the same, but in case you're curious, this stuff is delicious. Also, I just wanted to say a big thank you to everyone who commented in my video last week for the really kind feedback on the topic, journaling and narrative therapy. It has been a while since I have filmed a more information-heavy video, and I was feeling so rusty, but it was something that I was really excited to research and talk about, and I just really appreciate all of your kind feedback. And I also want to say a big thank you to everyone who clearly share the same love of black licorice as I do. I really thought I was kind of alone there and that it was one of those snacks that collect dust at the store. But it seems that there are a lot of you who love black licorice as well. And I got some really great suggestions on other black licorice types to try. So I am really excited. I love that we can talk about stationery, but we can also talk about snacks that we love as well. So if you ever have a suggestion for a snack that you think I would enjoy, I would love to hear it because I think I might be just as passionate about snacks and coffee and tea as I am about stationery. In case you are new here, I shared a video at the end of June, beginning of July, that I was planning on taking my 3 books. I was using a Hobonichi Weeks, this one for meal planning. I was using this for tracking my health and wellness. And then I was using this as my main work planner. So in that video, I talked about how I had been feeling like I was really craving consolidation and simplicity. And I decided to participate in the One Book July challenge, which was originally started by Carrie Harling, Romany's Realm, and Miss Vicky B, to see how I would feel if I were to consolidate what's going on in here into this book. I guess I was curious to see if this was something that I could see myself either continuing for the rest of the year and into 2026, or if I was going to fall apart and miss my 2 books and decide if I wanted to go back into compartmentalizing or splitting things up. Before I started the challenge, I will say that I was expecting to not really miss the meal planning because I had been feeling a little bit disengaged with this book since the start of 2025. And I think there was a part of me that stuck with this book anyway because of my history with meal planning and struggling with it. And I was worried about removing this from my lineup because I guess I was worried that I might go backwards and end up back in chaos. And then for this book, I really didn't want to stop using it. I felt like it was working really well for me and I was feeling really happy with the way that I have customized it. But at the same time, the desire to attempt to consolidate everything in one book was something that I was just feeling really called to try. And so I figured July was a great time to attempt it. So when it came to meal planning, I guess we can start there. I had been using my weeks, the weekly layout, to do my meal planning. So I used to plan in 2-week sprints where I would do my meal plan essentially on the left side of the Hobonichi weeks page. And then on the right side of the first week of the sprint, I would use this as notes pages for jotting down meal ideas and keeping track of what we already had to avoid duplication. And then on the second page of the 2-week sprint, I was using the notes pages for a shopping list. And then on the left side, I would continue with the meal planning. As you can see, I wasn't really filling out the pages that much. So I was starting to fill in the pages with a lot of photos and stickers, which was actually kind of nice. And it made it really colorful. But it wasn't really necessary. This was sort of an extra step that I was taking just to fill up empty space. So what I did was, instead of completely revamping the way I was using my A6, I realized that I had this extra room on the bottom of my A6 weekly supplement. This is also from Hobonichi. So I used the bottom to do my meal planning. And you can see here that I have continued doing this because it is working really well. So the meal planning itself goes here, which makes a lot of sense because I have my schedule here. So I can see the nights that I am working late and I can plan accordingly for those nights to be non-cooking nights. So this is working really well. And when it comes to the notes pages, so keeping track of meal ideas, what we're starting our week with, and things that we want to buy in our grocery list, I decided to allocate the weekend daily pages in the A6 for all of that stuff. And what I found is it doesn't really require 2 pages. So all of the groceries actually fit really well here. I put meal ideas on this side, anticipating to need the space, but I didn't. And same thing here. The grocery list wasn't really that big, and then the meal ideas could have easily fit here. And I'm pointing this out because this is going to be relevant shortly. So that's the meal planning. That worked out really well. And my conclusion to this experiment is I'm going to continue doing my meal planning in this way. It just works a lot better. And I like that it doesn't take up as much space. In a way, meal planning was taking up a lot of physical space by dedicating an entire book to it. And as much as I enjoyed how well themed this book was, and I still think the Hobonichi Weeks is a really great tool for meal planning. If our living situation were different and we had, say, more things to keep track of or more people to accommodate for, I think this would be something that I would return to. But given our current situation, I think we've gotten it to a place where it doesn't require as much space to actually do the planning. And it seems to have been built into a habit that has translated well to this system. So I'm thrilled. Next is the health and wellness. So to give you an example, this one was a lot more interesting. So in my health and wellness, this is a book where I have been tracking things like my steps. My monthlies were for events. My weeklies were for different habits, and my meals throughout the week, weather, notes and reflections, that kind of thing. And then in the back, I had a few year at a glance charts for tracking symptoms of things that I wanted to keep track of throughout the year. And then it was also a place where I was tracking books read and different types of media. So let's start with steps. In order to track my steps, instead of using the yearly Calendex, which I used for something else, I used the note pages in the back to recreate the steps yearly view. And this worked out really well. It was really easy to keep up with because I have apps that track my steps. So even if I fall behind, I can fill this out really quickly. So I really liked how this worked. The highlights denote days where I either do a run or a strength training workout. As you can see, I was not so great at doing my strength training in July, but I'm really hoping I can get back on track in August. So this was great. I really enjoyed how this worked out. And I do think this looks a little messy, but somebody told me in my previous video that Hobonichi does have some printouts. So if I were to do this next year, I think I would potentially look into seeing if they have a printout like this for the A6, and then I could potentially just paste that in and save myself having to set this up. So that's how I track the steps. For the monthlies, this is what my monthly looks like. The way I was using the monthly in here was I was just marking down events, like social events. So I was kind of seeing it as like a social tracker in a way, just to make sure that I'm putting in effort into socializing. So I used the calendar a little bit differently in July. So what I did was I used part of the calendar to track the weather. So the high of the day, the average of the day, and then whether it was sunny or raining or cloudy. And then the other half of the calendar day, I would just mark in different events that I wanted to remember. So I actually like how this turned out. I had a lot of fun decorating it. I used a bunch of little stickers that I got through some Happy Mail from Moonlit Journal. I like how this calendar turned out. I do find myself kind of missing the way that I was using the calendar to mark down ink samples and ink bottles that I get throughout the year. I just find this is a really nice, quick reference, and I honestly reference my other A6 from last year whenever I'm trying to see an ink, and I think, like, I kind of remember what year I got it from, and then I'm able to quickly scan through the calendar to see the ink. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised because I felt like I was sort of underutilizing these calendars. But I'm actually really enjoying it. But at the same time, I think this is also a really nice way to use the calendar. So I'm a little torn on how I might use this moving forward. I think this makes a lot more sense, but my emotional side really enjoys the colorful, quick reference of this calendar. So I'm a little bit unsure about what I'm going to do. But anyway, I just wanted to show you the completed calendar. And I'm not generally someone who ever knows how to use the monthlies. So the fact that this turned out in the way that it did, I'm feeling really proud of myself. So that's how I use the calendar. I didn't change anything about how I do my planning in this book. So if you're new to my channel, I can explain. Basically, on my daily pages, I start my day with my meetings, which I will always reference my weekly supplement. I'll write down my to-dos for the day, and then I just use the side for notes. So sometimes it's ink thoughts, sometimes it's how I'm feeling, sometimes it's just notes when I'm on a meeting, when I'm on a call. Sometimes it's recipes. It's very fluid. It's definitely not journaling, but this is very much like my work notebook. So I always have this open on my desk and I love it. So next I'll show you the back pages really quickly. So we already looked at the steps. Here's the year at a glance. So in my weeks, I had designated one of the notes pages for anxiety, one for sleep, and one for skin. And between these two versions, I prefer this version because in this one, I had them separated, but I see them as very interconnected. So it was really important for me to be able to compare between these symptoms. And I had thought about doing some type of comparison visually down here, but I never did. I never did. So here, I really like this because it actually eliminates the need to do a visual comparison because I can easily compare each of the months to each other, well, fairly easily because they're all on the same page. And the way that this chart works is I use my ratings for, like, I check in with myself on a daily basis and I rate my anxiety levels. I look at my sleep data. I also reflect and track my skin symptoms. And I use a symbol to denote which category it's in. So if it's a big colored dot, that means that it needs attention. So for anxiety, that would mean if my anxiety levels are at a certain threshold. For sleep, it's when my sleep really drops to really low levels, like 1 to 2 hours of sleep. And for skin, that is when I'm having a major flare-up. And then the big circle outline means that things are sort of monitored. So they're not in a sort of critical condition, but they're maybe not great. So it's important to pay attention and see if there's anything I can do to kind of reverse the trend. And then the little dot means maintain or no need to worry about it. So if you look at my chart, I can see here the months where I had the most trouble, which I think is really interesting because I'm able to see like, oh, for example, in April, I was having a few days of really high anxiety. And I also had quite a few days of a skin flare-up. And then I can even see in April as well, I also had some really bad sleep nights. So I can kind of see when things are, how they're comparing to each other. And you can also see as the year has gone on, my sleep has gotten so much better. So I'm not really struggling with insomnia as much as I was for all of last year and quite a big portion of the first part of this year. And also I can see that I have had some flare-ups, but they are not lasting as long as they were in the beginning of the year. and I'm having a lot more good days over bad days. And actually, my anxiety levels are doing pretty well too. So this is really great to see, and I love that it's all on one page. And I don't think that I would be able to fit that as neatly in my Hobonichi weeks. So I'm really happy with this. And any of these squares means something happened on the day that I might want to remember because it might be good context. And that's what I do over here. So if there's a square here, then I just, like if there's a square here, which is April the 9th, then I know I can just go to the April the 9th spot, and I can see that that's when we got a new humidifier. So it might be interesting to note if I noticed any changes as of that date. So that's my year at a glance, and I'm really happy with it in my A6, and I actually think I prefer it in here over my Hobonichi weeks. And then we have the book log, the movie log, TV show log, and this is something that I think I added after that video. I took the favorites page and I realized that this would be a great place to document events. I originally was thinking maybe date nights, but I sort of broadened it to just general friend dates as well. And I'm really happy with this. And I have quite a few. This isn't exhaustive because sometimes I forget to add to this, but I still have quite a bit of space. And if I do run out of this, then I could either add more pages. I think somebody mentioned this was a printout, or I can, I don't know, maybe repurpose the My 100 or something for it. So yeah, that's the A6. There's one thing that I didn't touch on. The other thing that I did at the front is I tried using this yearly page as a place for my habit trackers. So basically everything that I was tracking here, I kind of culled down the list and I picked the most important things, which was a good exercise. And I put them here so that I could track them in columns. Now, this was something that I have seen a lot of people do. I did not come up with this idea. And I always thought this made a lot of sense. You only have to write these things out once for the month, and then you can just go down and track everything. And I really like the idea of it, but I'll be completely honest, I would constantly forget to go to this page. And it reminded me of all the times in the past that I have tried to do habit tracking and have never been able to get through to the end of the month. It was weird because it reminded me of when I used to struggle back when I was more into bullet journaling. I tried to set up habit trackers so many times. I just had the best intentions, but I was never able to actually complete a month. And it wasn't until I started using a Hobonichi Weeks and I used this type of layout that I was able to consistently do this for an entire year last year and half of 2025 in here. So because of that, I was thinking that this was a fail and that I was 99% sure that I was going to go back into the Hobonichi Weeks because habit tracking isn't for everybody, but for me, I really appreciate the nudge to check in on a daily basis and have an opportunity to ask myself how I'm doing for the day and just make sure that I'm on top of some of the things like taking my iron supplements. I have a list of pros and cons because I didn't want to forget. So just to summarize, the pros of being in this A6 are that I really loved having only one book to manage. So I had been saying in the past that I was craving simplicity and consolidation, and I really think that I achieved that in this book. I felt like I was really maximizing the space better in this book. So there were all these things that I felt like I wasn't really using, like this and all my notes pages. And I really feel like I was able to take some of the best parts of these books and put them in here. Meal planning felt very natural in this system, so I was very happy about that. And another goal that I have for 2026 is that I wanted to buy less books, and I knew that Hobonichi season was about to start, and it has. As for cons, as I mentioned, I felt very uninspired to track the habits. I often forgot, and I would have to go back and try to backfill a week's worth, which I think kind of defeats the purpose of doing daily habit tracking. It just felt really messy to have my health and wellness in here because I'm so used to thinking this is a workbook, and my ritual in the morning would be that I would start my day in my health and wellness, take stock of how I was doing, close it up, and then open this and get into work mode. So having it all in one book did feel kind of messy. I guess the best way that I could kind of describe it is like putting on a uniform for work or putting on running clothes when you're about to go to a run. So if I'm wearing a dress, I'm not going to feel like going for a run. But if I put on running shoes and if I put on like running shorts, then I'm much more in the mood to exercise or go for a run. So it kind of felt like, yeah, in a way, like it kind of felt like I was wearing a dress and trying to motivate myself to go for a run. Yeah, because as soon as I'm opening this book, I'm thinking about work. The other thing, which is kind of silly, but I just want to be honest, is I really love cream paper. And one of my favorite things about the Hobonichi weeks is the fact that they use cream paper. I don't know, there's something about this white paper that just feels so stark to me. And I feel like all my fountain pen inks look better on cream paper. It's just a personal preference. If I eliminate Hobonichi weeks from my lineup, it just feels slightly less inspiring somehow. So in terms of conclusions, I would say that I had a lot more fun in the weeks. I felt a lot more, I just feel like I have, more fun with stickers and different layouts, and the health and wellness just has worked so well for me in this format. I set up August because I was thinking that I would just move right back in here and I would kind of pick up where I left off. Like, this was how I was feeling up until today. I was very sure that I was going to go back into the weeks and just finish off the year in here. As I was sitting down to prepare for this video, I just felt this nagging voice that's telling me that I think I just need more time than July. So there were so many good things about moving everything into this book. I even took this book with me to the grocery store. Like, I used to take this with me when I would go grocery shopping because I would have my list. And I mean, this is just as small and portable. So when I'm leaving, I don't have to think, okay, today I'm going to bring my weeks, or tomorrow I'm going to bring my A6. I could just bring this. So that was another win for this book. knowing that I felt uninspired to track the habits and knowing that I would often forget, this kind of tells me that I haven't built a habit, and maybe there's, a good reason for it, but I haven't built a habit and I'm not having as much fun in here. Is that a reason to go back to having a second book? Maybe, because I think planning can be fun. I think, we're all planner enthusiasts here, and as much as we love having our planners work for us, there's something to be said for enjoying planning and finding joy in it. So I think optimizing for fun is a very valid reason to go back to something like the weeks, especially with covers, like beautiful covers like this. So at the same time, I knew that I know that this isn't the first time that I've craved simplicity and consolidation. So I'm probably going to feel this way again. And I also have this goal of buying less books in 2026. So I was kind of thinking about whether there was anything else that I could try to make it more fun to work in here, and also to really encourage and build that habit. So one thing that I was thinking was, for some reason, this layout works better for me. I don't know why. I really wish this worked well for me, but it really didn't. It just felt like I was staring at too many numbers and I just did not enjoy it at all. So I thought, what if I were to find a way to try this layout in here? Because is it that it's the weeks that made me successful in being consistent, or is it this layout that for some reason works better for my brain? I experimented with setting up this layout on the Sunday of the daily pages, because I realized that even on weeks when I'm doing meal planning, I think I only need one page the Saturday to do my meal planning, which leaves me with another day that is free. So for the time being, I'm going to try this out for a little while longer, at the very least for this week, to see if this feels a little more sustainable than in here. And if it doesn't work out, then that's a data point for me. From a fun perspective, I think there's a few things that I can try. One of them is just putting a little more effort into using my stickers. The other thing that I am thinking about is, do I want to continue using this layout for my calendar? Or do I want to go back to using my monthlies for something fun like ink? I'm kind of leaning towards trying another month of this, because I do like this is kind of functional, but it also has a bit of fun built into it. So it gives me my month at a glance of different things that I was up to. And then maybe I can find another way to do something with ink. One thought I had was possibly I could do this type of thing in a day-free notebook for next year, which would be interesting. I've never tried the day-free, but I could still get the calendar view, but then I could make it more of like an ink journal as opposed to fitting it into my A6. I guess to sum up, I thought for sure I was going to bring this health and wellness weeks right back into my lineup, but I think I'm actually going to see if I can stay in here a little longer as my one book and try some of the tweaks, like doing my habit tracking on Sundays and seeing if that layout just lends itself a little bit better. And if not, I will I will maybe either do another experiment or I'll just go back in here. In my wildest dreams, Hobonichi would come out with the A6 in cream paper. That is my ultimate wish list item. I don't think that's going to happen. But anyway, other than that, I'm just really happy in the A6. I think it works really well, and I'm really happy with how it's evolving over time, and I feel like it's just getting even more useful for me. I think there is a part of me that does really want to make it work, and given how exciting the Hobonichi previews are right now, I think it would be really good to figure this out sooner rather than later before I start justifying why I need multiple Hobonichi weeks. Let's talk a little bit about the Hobonichi previews. So, as of me filming this, we have seen a few days of the previews, and I just wanted to spend a bit of time chatting about it because I'm so excited, and there aren't really a lot of people in my immediate life who get as excited about Hobonichi as I do. So I'm hoping that I can use this space to talk about how things are going so far. On Monday, they announced the Hobonichi Techo app. I didn't read too much into it. From what I could see, it seemed like it was an app that could facilitate logging on your phone so that you could have a space, because I guess the assumption is that your phone is with you all the time. So if you're logging things on your phone, then when you go back to your paper Hobonichi, you will have a space to reference. I have some reservations about the app. One question that I have, and maybe they already answered it and I just haven't seen it or I didn't look into it, is I'm just wondering what they're going to do with the data that they collect. So where is this data going to be stored? Is it going to be stored in each country that you're in, or is it going to be stored in a server in Japan? And who is going to have access to that data? Because if I am saving really personal information or really personal thoughts, I would be really cautious about storing those thoughts in an app. I would just want to know more about things from a data privacy perspective. I know it seems like it should be fun stuff, but I'm just really sensitive about where I store my data. And I'm even more cautious about how that data is going to be used, because if I were to find out that the data was going to be used for some kind of machine learning situation, I would want to know about that. So I'm a little bit skeptical, cautious about the app. The whole reason why I love Hobonichi is that it got me spending less time online. I don't really want another reason to be spending more time on my phone or on an app. So I'm not sure about the app, but I'm open to seeing it and I'm open to learning more about it when it launches. Hobonichi always seems to put a lot of effort into their offerings. And so I expect that they would have put a lot of research and time into developing this app. So at the very least, I'm open to learning more about it, but I'm not so sure about using it. The next thing that they announced is the tiny robot. I'm freaking out about the robot. I love the whole You Love You theme so much. I really hope that I'm able to get one of the robots. I guess if I end up getting an A6, then I think I should get a robot if I order directly from Hobonichi, but I think if you get just a week's, you don't, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I think it's so cute. I love it. I love the theme. I think Hobonichi always does so well with their themes. Then they announced their colors lineup. And again, I always really love the Hobonichi colors. This is what happened to me last year, where I fell in love with the Yumi Kitagishi as well as many other of their covers. But I also was obsessed with this pistachio, and I just could not get it out of my mind. So I ended up justifying getting 2 weeks, one for health and wellness and one for meal planning. But I'm gonna try not to do that next year. Having said that, I really love the antique green weeks, and I am contemplating getting a week's mega for next year. So instead of getting 2 weeks, I'm thinking about possibly getting 1 week's mega and using it for things like my movie reviews, possibly doing book reviews in it as well. And yeah, so I'm not positive yet. I wonder if this could fit in a regular weeks if I'm not using it for health and wellness and other stuff like that. But my tentative thought is, if I decide that I don't want a week's for health and wellness and meal planning, then I think I might want to use a week's for something a little more fun. So maybe like a media type of journal. I've seen a lot of people do that, and I've always loved that idea. So that's something that I might do. Undecided. I also really love the peony purple, pinkish purple, really beautiful. And then last night, my time, they announced the Moomin collaboration. I was so excited to see it, honestly. I have watched the Moomin Hobonichi Weeks collabs in the last few years, and I always love them, but I've never been able to justify trying to get like a forwarding service to get the Moomin Weeks, especially when Hobonichi offers a lot of great options on their online store. And so I have been able to always find a weeks to use from their like regular offering. But I think it is so exciting that they're now collaborating and they're going to be offering it on their store. I expect it'll be just as popular as the Paddington collection last year. So I'm not sure if I'm going to... I don't want to fall too in love with anything because I don't want to be disappointed. It's overwhelming how much they have in this collection. I mean, they have these adorable notebook covers, really cute weeks. I'm also really into their 5-year planner covers. That's something that I'm very intrigued by. And then I think at the very least, I would love to get their sticky notes. I always have a use for sticky notes, and they're usually more reasonably priced. I also think their rotating stamp is really cute. I love their clear stamps. I'm very tempted by the accessories. So I know in the past the accessories have also been really hard to get. The blotting paper is really cute. The Hobonichi template, the Deco Rush. Yeah, I'm really into the accessories. I think the books are really beautiful, but I'm probably going to go for another A6 cover like this, unless there's a Han that really catches my eye. But I've been really happy with this type of, like, just the regular book and my A6 cover. And then I think I might do 1 week's if I find a cover that I really fall in love with. My ideal would be an artist cover that I really love, but in a mega. So that's my tentative plan. And then I think I'm also going to hold off on getting a cousin, which is going to be hard because I do have a soft spot for the cousin and I do use it for longer note taking, but I'm just not using the cousin to its fullest. And It's starting to feel like a bit of a waste having such a big book and only using basically the daily pages. My tentative plan is to go from last year or this year. I got a cousin, I got an A6, and I got 2 Hobonichi weeks. And I think my tentative plan for next year in terms of Hobonichi is 1 A6 plus the weekly supplement and maybe 1 weeks. And then I think that's going to be kind of it from a book's perspective, but we will see how things go. We're only 2 days into the cover reveals, so I can't promise that I'm not going to fall in love with a lot of things. All right, well, if you're still here, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. It was so good to catch up with you on how things went with my One Book July experiment, and of course to chat with you about my Hobonichi thoughts. I would love to know how things are going with your system, and if you participated in One Book July, how did it go? And what have you decided? And also, what do you think about the Hobonichi previews so far? I'm so curious to hear your thoughts. I would love to have a conversation with you in the comments below. All right. Well, I hope you're doing well, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Bye.